Hey, everybody. I am at a secure, undisclosed location because I'm down visiting my parents in Tampa, and their house is a big, modernist hollow box, and it's really echoey in there. So I'm joining you from the RV, which is a slightly odd choice, but the acoustics in here are really actually very good. Look, I wanted to pop on quickly to talk about what is happening right now, not only with this absolutely batshit insane executive order on mail-in voting, which is going to absolutely kick the Republicans right in the junk. It is going to bite them on the ass so hard because you're trying to make the DHS and the Postal Service become a weird election police and decide which voters are okay and which voters aren't for mail-in. Here's the amazing thing about that executive order. First off, it's crazy. It's like a Stephen Miller spank bank fantasy weird idea that it's like this Rube Goldberg machine Stephen Miller wants to build to stop people from early voting. Because lunatics around them have convinced them that early voting or mail voting is somehow bad. Guys, when I was a Republican political consultant for 30 years, the secret sauce from the 1980s, late 80s, until right now for Republicans was that we used big data and we used targeting and we started hitting people with messages and mail and phones and ads well in advance so that we could then send them a mail-in ballot. Hey, will you vote now? We used to bank those votes. Nothing illegal about it, nothing wrong with it. Democrats caught up. They started using the tech too, which is why the GOP is now freaked out about it. This entire thing on the mail-in ballot executive order is because Trump is petrified about the polling. And a lot of Republican consultants are also petrified about this polling. It's bad. It's not just bad, it's spectacularly, horribly awful in every way. It is so bad that Donald Trump is now nosing into the 20s. We're not far. We are very close to his polling being in the 20s. Now, Joe Biden had some terrible polling, but not very frequently in the 20s. But look, this executive order on mail-in ballots is constitutionally and facially flawed in so many ways. Okay, it's got like 100 different ways you can attack it if you're a good lawyer. And guys like Mark Elias, this is like the bat signal for those guys. They're going to go in there. They're going to pound this thing. They're going to beat this thing to shit. They're going to pound it so hard that Lindsey Graham's going to get aroused by it. Okay, this is going to go down in flames because it is just constitutionally broken. The Constitution, which I was told when I was in the Republican world, I was told that states' rights were very important. This is a huge abrogation of states' rights. But leave that aside for a second. Let that go for a minute. You're putting DHS and the Postal Service in charge of picking whose ballots get mailed or delivered. This is so facially defective that it boggles the mind. You're going to build a federal voter file so that DHS and Palantir, by the way, Palantir will come in to do this. I promise you. I don't know this for a fact yet, but I promise you Palantir is going to offer as a bespoke data solution just in case you need one, Mr. President. This is right up their fucking alley. But the problem for the Republicans, they just like the Texas dummy mander, they didn't figure this out. They're going to go out there, they're going to fight this thing hugely on social media and in public, and you're going to convince millions of Republican voters. Millions of Republican voters are going to say, well, I can't go do that early voting this year because I'm told that George Soros has secret gnomes inside the post office who will change my vote to AOC and turn me into trans. They're going to believe what Trump tells them about early voting and that it's bad. Now, inside every Republican state party headquarters today, they're on ChatGPT like, how do I commit seppuku? How can I leave this job? Can I go become a road builder in Utah? They're looking for any way out because Trump is absolutely going to cut the throat of one of their most effective political tools. Not because this is going to fail in court, but because psychologically they will fight this in the public and social media space, and it will convince more Republican voters absentee voting bad. And Republican voters right now are showing lower and lower and lower intentions to go out and vote. And why wouldn't you? The president is at 33% approval. His policies on economics are underwater on average, whether it's inflation or jobs or overall economy, about 35 to 40 points underwater. He is deeply unpopular with the country. And so Republicans needed to be able to curate that early vote. And now Republican voters are going to go, oh no, president hates early voting. We can't do that. That's terrible. That's just wrong. It's evil and bad. Chef's kiss, Donnie. As I said in the article I wrote this morning, in the words of the great poet, sage, and philosopher DJ Khaled, congratulations, you played yourself. All right, the second thing I want to talk to you about is this appearance at the Supreme Court today. Now, look, it's nothing illegal, but it is inappropriate. Donald Trump and Pam Bondi showing up at the Supreme Court to try to put their thumb on the scale of what has been settled constitutional interpretation for over 100 years about the 14th Amendment and birthright citizenship. And I think what they really want is for you to freak out about Bondi and Trump being in the court. And yet it was a dumb idea, and it was a stupid, dangerous, precedent-shattering idea and all that stuff. But the Solicitor General of the U.S., even from John Roberts today, leader of the Red Court, was not having an easy skate. He was not having a fun time. And I got to tell you, folks, I want you to actually embrace the idea that there are a lot of people in the MAGA universe, one including Marco Rubio, who were born with parents here illegally or who were not citizens. And the idea that you can just sweep aside citizenship because of the birth status of the immigration status of the parents is shockingly un-American. It's not a great narrative. And you're going to find this is going to ripple out into the country quickly, where people are going to go, wait, mom and dad weren't legally here? And now somebody who's 35 or 40 years old or 50 years old could have their citizenship revoked because they crossed the administration? What you're building there is a snitch culture in this country where people are going to go, okay, well, I heard about my neighbor who I don't like, and I don't like the way he painted his house, so I'm going to make sure that people find out about his immigration status. I think that the Solicitor General today had curated a bunch of very edge case arguments that work on Breitbart or work at the Free Bacon, or work on InfoWars maybe, but don't really work in the real world. And I think that the court was not running to embrace this as a case that they seemed all hot and bothered to elevate for Trump's benefit. But I do think the intimidation stuff, Trump wants you to pay attention to that. Me is his storyline. But this is another thing that they're doing, another area they're fighting in. This culture war box they really want to get back into that lets them try to ignore the war, the economy, the tariff damage, the incredibly quickly rising price of gas and diesel, the horrible impact on our farmers and our ag sector. And all of it is adding up at a time when Trump is really, really, really in the deepest political trouble of his entire career. This is actually, he has numbers that are so bad now, it makes January 6th look like a warm-up act. This is not a guy who's in a great political position. This is not a guy who's in a great, position of strength in the country. People just don't like Donald Trump anymore. They don't. And the hardcores and the MAGAs, and I really have to recommend this, their social media bubbles are getting smaller and hotter. They're like collapsing plasma, and they're going to get hotter and crazier now that he's in so much more trouble. And as much as he wants to send this message that immigration stuff and trans stuff are going to be the center of the argument for this election cycle, they're not. First off, none of the Democratic candidates are playing their bullshit. None of the Democratic candidates are there going, why, yes, let's fall into that obvious trap. I'll put my foot in the bear trap first. They didn't do it in last year's statewide. They're not doing it in the specials. They're not doing it pretty much anywhere. You know, James Tallarico has a terrific opening ad that's out. He's talking about affordability and corruption. Those are things that Trump, those are the inversions of culture war. Those are real central issues for millions and millions and millions of American families right now. And the more you talk about the corruption and the economic devastation that Trump is causing and the illegality of his behavior, the more you've ratcheted up this sense in the country that we're done. We're not playing his game right now. We're not going to continue to do this shit. And so he's going to flail more. This executive order is flailing because they're scared to death. They are petrified. Okay? They're raising a lot of money. And that is also because the people behind the whole hate machine of MAGA are getting scared too. Okay? You're going to see, like with Byron Degenerate in Florida, you saw he's got all the usual Trump suspects, Elon Musk and all these other billionaires are pouring money in there. But people are getting it. These Republicans who are so out there right now for Trump, they're so in the middle of it, pretending that the only thing people care about is the SAVE Act. No one gives a shit. Looking at you, Mike Lee, in particular. What have these guys done? What have they done? And a lot of voters are realizing it. Nothing. They voted to protect the Epstein files and keep Trump's name secret. That was a big deal for them. They voted to give Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos and Mark Zuckerberg a massive tax cut. They put a lot of energy into that. Now they're trying to put a lot of energy into keeping you from voting with the SAVE Act. The SAVE Act is dead but too dumb to lay down. The other thing they've done is absolutely rigidly defend Trump on the tariffs. Congress could take care of these tariffs. They could wipe it away. Bang, be done. They won't because they're too busy with him. This is a great framing mechanism for Democrats. Congressman X doesn't care about you. He cares about him. Remember those they-them ads that the Republicans did in 2024 that were so effective? And the Democrats couldn't respond because they just couldn't make themselves think hard enough? We responded for them, but long story. We had a way to do it that worked. And the framing was simple. He wants you to talk about they, them, but everything in Trump's world is about he, him. Everything. And right now, the he, him frame is less and less popular. Right now, Trump is so unpopular with the voters in this country that we're almost having trouble keeping up with the reality of these polls. Trump went from having a real entree with young voters, 18 to 30s, in 2024, to right now, where young voters, he has a 20% approval with 18 to 30s. 20%. The dead Ayatollah has higher approval ratings with 18 to 30s than Donald Trump. So this frame of crazy you're seeing this week or today, excuse me, not this week, all the time. The frame of crazy you're going to see tonight is Trump is going to do a live from the White House press event where he's going to scream at NATO and threaten to quit NATO. Now, can he make our relationship with NATO any shittier? It's hard to say how, because he's Vladimir Putin's sniveling bitch and always has been. But he's going to try. He's going to try to generate a big wave of distraction by saying, I'm leaving NATO. Well, A, the Senate ratifies treaties, Donnie, and you leaving it is also forbidden under the 2023 NDAA. Oops. You got to get 2/3 congressional approval to make a treaty like this go away. It doesn't sunset like things like the ABM treaty did. So he's going to do that tonight. That's one more distraction card right now. All of this that you're seeing right now is a desperate, desperate man and a desperate administration. They are freaked the hell out, guys. These are not happy people. The vote by mail thing. No matter what happens in the courts, it's now going to damage them with their own voters. It makes the Texas dummy mander look like an act of staggering political genius. Okay? The birthright citizenship case is also going to blow back on them. They don't understand the propositional nature of America. They don't understand that this country is a gift to people. It's not a lottery ticket where if you're a white dude, you get it automatically. It's a gift. It's propositional. And the 14th Amendment for over 100 years has recognized this. Dred Scott was bad. Okay? It was bad. It was among the single worst, arguably the worst decision in the Supreme Court's history. I don't think they're eager to go back to a new version of Dred Scott. Leaving NATO is again one of these things that is fundamentally a distraction. You know what? Donald Trump's going to die soon, inshallah, right? May the Big Mac do its work. And by the way, I'll get in trouble for this, and I'll get canceled for this, and the Republicans will write angry articles on Breitbart and the pay to play, literally the Daily Caller. You can literally pay them to write stories. So corrupt. Long story short, they're going to write stories saying, "Oh, Wilson called on Trump's death." I'm not calling for his death. I just hope that the actuarial tables and nature take their course sooner than later. I would like to be liberated of the curse of Donald Trump in this nation and this world, as I'm sure many of you would as well. He is at a breaking point right now. He's at a fragile point. If his numbers go into the 20s, we then start to see not only the House races go into the 40 race window, not the 25 race window. Okay? We see the Senate become much more problematic for the Republicans. We're already looking at Maine and Alaska, and if you're the Republicans, you better pull off some miracles in those two states right now, and North Carolina, those three states, because those numbers are diverging more and more by the day, and the Republicans' numbers are tightly linked to Trump. You're seeing Democrats running fantastic, spot-on campaigns, and I want to talk about two of them really quickly. One, Tallarico in Texas is running a pitch-perfect Texas campaign. Like I said, he's talking about affordability and corruption. Those things are the brand descriptor increasingly for voters who look at Ken Paxton, who is going to be the Republican nominee, who is a freaking criminal, who was only saved because a couple of his billionaire oil and gas dude friends quite literally bought the Senate leadership. They wrote millions of dollars of checks to change the vector of the Ken Paxton impeachment. You want Ken Paxton as your nominee, Democrats. There's no world in which you don't want that. It's phenomenal. He's insane. He's corrupt. He has got a wandering dick. The whole thing just rolls together into a beautiful Oppo package. Secondly, Cooper in North Carolina running a brilliant campaign, and it's showing, okay? It's really showing. Third, I want to talk about Florida for a second, because you saw those two races last week that have scared the shit out of Republicans in the great state of Florida. Do they have all the money in the universe? You bet they do. Do they have a political organization that's second to none? You bet they do. Is Byron Donalds the inevitable governor of Florida? Absolutely not. I'll tell you why. First off, the Oppo has just begun to drop on Byron Donalds, and it is great. It's It's Kristi Noem's husband level great. I'm not saying Byron's a drag queen, because he's not to my knowledge, but he's degenerate, and you're going to hear the word cuck chair, and you're going to hear about Byron Donalds at levels you do not yet imagine. But secondly to that, he's so linked to Trump that as Trump's brand goes down, he becomes more endangered. And remember, the Republican primary is late in Florida. Very, 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 very late in the season. So he has to toe the line with Donald Trump, or Trump will get pissed and go, I thought Byron was a friend, but now I like Jay Collins, or perhaps one of the other weirdos, right? There are a couple of other goons in that race, right? But the third thing about Florida that's really important about that race is that David Jolly is running the single best Democratic statewide campaign I've ever seen since Bob Graham. Okay? That's a long time ago. That's very far in the past. God love Bob. But David's out there doing the work. I think Democrats should follow him because he's out there talking to groups every day. He's going and knocking on doors, red parts of the state, blue parts of the state, purple parts of the state. And that ability and willingness to do that work is really important. It's a great lesson for Democrats. I also want to talk about why the congressional situation in Florida is getting very shaky for a bunch of these other races. Again, Republicans can't talk about anything real. They can't talk about anything that voters care about. They have to stay in the Trump bubble. They have to sit in that bubble all the time. You got Anna Paulina Luna in a R+5 seat, which in an ordinary year, that's pretty good seat. This year, that ain't it. She's got a terrific woman running against her who is a former general, knows her business, squared away, and none of it. Luna is out talking about peace with Russia. She's got the Russian parliament, the Duma leaders in Congress wandering around with them. She cares about Trump and this big picture MAGA fantasy world. That race is in trouble. 27 in South Florida, Salazar, in trouble. I guess it would be, since Trump's taking all the Cubans and Venezuelans off of TPS and deporting them. Good job, Donald. But look, Trump is in, again, a fragile bubble. He sees good Democratic candidates running good campaigns and doesn't have a counteraction to them. Doesn't have a countermeasure. There's no simple culture war trick or trap to turn this around. This is a really good spot. Democrats should be very happy with the spot Trump is in mentally. He's flailing. He's freaking out. He knows how unpopular and hated he is. His necromancer's claw and his staggering around and his slurring speech is telling everybody this ain't the guy. The war is a political and military and strategic disaster for Trump. Do we taco? Do we not taco? Do we invade? Do we not invade? Do we leave? Do we stay? Do we leave? Do we stay? He can't make up his mind because he doesn't know his mind. He's not cogent. This is not a good situation for him. American forces are in danger. They're still sending more to the region. The goal was regime change, then it was to get the uranium, then it was to open the straits, then it's regime change again. Now it's we're going to bomb you, we're going to blow up your desalination plants and your power stations. Hello, Geneva Convention, war crimes. But all of it is a bad sign for Trump. He is flailing a lot. And I want people to take heart about this. We have a lot of work to do to win, a ton of work to do to win. But I want you to take heart about all this because this is a guy who's not hitting home runs at all. He's hitting the occasional single right now, but he's getting struck out a lot more. I'm using a sport ball analogy, which I'm not the greatest sport ball guy, but I do understand those, especially because my wife loves the baseball. Go Sox. Anyway, listen, folks, I want to thank you for watching today. This is just a pop-up, and I hope that air conditioner in the background isn't too loud for you. But the Land Yacht is the best studio at my parents' house, and so here we are in the Land Yacht. All right, thanks everybody. Do me a big favor, and if you would like to go ahead and click on subscribe to Against All Enemies, it is my Substack. We put on about 4 or 5 pieces a week, whether it's video, whether it's behind the paywall or in front of the paywall, or the Friday newsletter, the Friday brief. Really appreciate you guys signing up for that. That people seem to really love that. That's every Friday. I do a long form piece in the beginning, a big essay like I would normally do for a standard Substack post. Then 5, 6, 7, 10, sometimes articles, shorter articles about stories that interest me and that I think pull back the curtain on what's happening in the country a little bit. Sometimes they're weird, sometimes they're scary, sometimes they're political, sometimes they're economic, sometimes they're tech. And there's also every week what I'm reading and scenes from the home front, which is pictures of the cats, the alligators, the dogs, the wife, the kids, the grandkids, the adventures. Anyway, folks, thank you so much for watching. Really appreciate you all. We'll talk to you again next time. See ya.
MSW Media.